Whether you're updating your library of compact discs or building in accessibility to the library of outdated magazines at your local doctor's office, the 6-Dot Braille Label Maker has got you covered. Everything you need to create high-quality Braille labels in any language is right here. The 6-Dot Braille Label Maker is powerful but simple. The 6-Dot ergonomic design makes it easy for children and adults of all ages to label practically anything at home or on the go, especially love letters on your significant other's locker at school. Throw this innovative 6-Dot Braille Label Maker in your bag and start labeling what matters most in your world today. For more information on the 6-Dot Braille Label Maker, visit logantech.com. After 25 years of the Americans with Disabilities Act, is it still 70% unemployment amongst the blind? Allow me to introduce you to Blink. We're here to make history and change the world by raising the bar and shaping statistics.
So I am recording this one on the Electro-Voice RE320. The question is, tell us about a up or a down that you have had in your life and how you went through it. And the realist will tell you about a up and a down for the most part. I'm thinking that instead of or, they think that I said and they give us both. Some have had a down turn into an up. Out of the hundreds of people I've interviewed, I've never had a person had a up turn into a down. But listen in, it's a goodie to what they have to say about the best of times and the worst of times in their life.
Amanda Berkeley.
It started with my final semester of my graduate career, which was in January. I got the approval for an independent study with an international business professor. So he pretty much told me, I want you to write me a paper, pick a topic, send me your topic, 15 to 18 pages, and we're going to publish it as a journal article. I said, okay, I can do this. So I chose my topic. I did Western impact on Chinese business culture. I started to work on it, which was really fun because I got to speak to a lot of Forbes contributors, Business Week reporters, different stuff like that, doing the research, digging up the stuff, people who's actually been to China. And then I sent it in. Keep in mind, I remember he asked me for 15 to 18 pages. I sent him 37. I met him at graduation for the first time. And he had read both of my articles that I had written on Japanese and Chinese culture. And he said, Miss Berkeley, you are the most stubborn, most overachieving, smartest person in Asian cultures that I have ever met. I am going to be teaching either in the fall or the spring a class on doing business in Asian cultures. Can I interest you in coming in to be an expert lecturer on the topic? And I said, oh, wow. He's like, and can I tell you that I think you should get your PhD because I think you'd make an excellent college professor. And I was like, oh God, you think I did something wonderful. Somebody actually likes what I did. So yeah, I want to be an expert.
Anaya Minor.
My mom died 10 years and a half ago. It was a life-changing experience. I never have dealt with illness or death before that. I was between 21 and 22, and I was in college studying law. So staying out of home because I was in college in another city. So I had to deal with loss. I have to deal with not understanding. That was even worse that when you're a teenager, being blind since birth, I have had my ups and downs and my why I'm blind and the rest are not. But when my mom died, it was much harder to deal with it. And I dealt with positive attitude. Instead of being in bed or not eating or being so sad I couldn't move, I chose to live. Yeah, you can be sad. And then you have to face the next day. Get up and do what you have to do. But at the end of a couple of years, you remember the good times. You see things with a far long-distance perspective.
Ashley Coleman.
After struggling for a while, back in 2011, after 5 years, I finally got my associate's degree in arts, which empowered me to transfer to the university level to start working on my bachelor's degree. I guess I could say one of my bigger downs was when I had to switch majors when I was working on my associate's degree, because I initially wanted to become an early childhood specialist. And so I had to switch my plan because I knew that if I continued with that role, it wouldn't be as successful for me. The teachers weren't going to be, as adaptable, and, the program in general. So I looked around for a while, and then I realized if I switch majors and go with the general associates and transfer, I could get a special ed degree and do the similar thing I had been planning to do the whole time.
Christopher O'Mealy.
I mentioned earlier that I used to go to LCB at one point, Louisiana Center for the Blind. And while I was there, as I mentioned earlier, I used to build computers and train people on them and all that stuff. And so I walked into my first computer class like, oh, we're just going to be doing stuff with Microsoft Word and Excel and blah, blah, blah. And I guess this was kind of arrogant of me, but I'm like, I'm not going to learn anything in here. And so when I sat down and started talking to Jack, my instructor, shout out to you, Jack, if you're listening, he started asking stuff about me. And when I asked, what's your story? What do you do? He's like, well, I've been in IT for 26 years. I was like, oh, that was my switch moment. Everyone has that switch moment at some point where you're like, oh, snap, this isn't going to be what I thought it was. I told him that I wanted to get some wider experience with technology outside of, what I was used to. And let me tell you, he gave it to me. And one day, one of the other employees there, her grandma had some trouble with her computer. And so she brought it in, and Jack was like, here you go, Chris. And so this is a few years ago. I can't remember exactly what we were doing, but it had something to do with, I think we were downgrading from 8 to 7. And I had to use some specialized programs to go in and pull her OEM key and all her install information and all that stuff. And then what happened was, I used to have this horrible habit of removing a flash drive and not ejecting it. And so I removed it so I could get ready to put all this information in and all that stuff. And well, when I removed it without ejecting it, it corrupted all of the data. And so I was like, well, I have my Mac with me. I have some disk recovery tools here. I was in a hurry. I was super confident. And when I went to recover the disk, I erased everything on the disk. But we had already started reinstalling the operating system, so all the information I needed was gone. Jack actually let me make that mistake. I guess he's one of the later mentors I had in life. He wasn't one of those people that I knew who just showed me how to do things and was done with it. He let me make mistakes and let me learn from them. So that was one of the big mistakes he let me make. And the reason he let me make it is because I had stayed inside my comfort zone with all of my technology usage and stuff. And so I have never really had to go to someone and tell them, hey, I screwed up. And well, I had to go to this poor old lady who just wanted her computer back so she could play solitaire and be like, hey, I busted your computer. I'll do my best to fix it. And that was actually hard for me. I've never had to do that before. I actually stressed about it for a long time. I got over it. I learned from it. And that's one of my downs.
Curtis Jackson.
The ups I've had is, like I said, getting my A+ and working as an assistive technology specialist and making the sacrifice and learning all I can to be able to help the next person. Having my son, Daniel, he's 2 now, and, learning how to be a blind parent and try to do it the best I can. And I would say the down is anytime I might apply for a job or a blind person applies for a job and it's not accessible, so you don't get the job because it's not accessible. Or, having a piece of software, trying to do remote access with TeamViewer or something, and it's not necessarily accessible. And, you call these companies and you try to explain to them and they go, well, you guys are a small minority of what you want in this small, so if we make these changes, we'll let you know. And we got to take care of our big customers first.
Daniel Aronoff.
The first down of my life was having the brain tumor, and it was traumatic. I can't say it's not. Listen, I was 3, 4, 5 years old. I can't tell you what I was thinking exactly.
Right.
But it never really got me down for good. I always kind of popped back up. Being resilient is one of those things that sort of stuck with me throughout the years. And I can think about all the negative moments in the hospital, and trust me, I remember what they are. I have a long memory. It goes way back. But I think about my family. I think about the cookies that they sent to me in the hospital. I think about the Sesame Street audio game they got for me in the hospital. I think of life as being sort of this positive roller coaster, and you do have your down moments, but then you sort of have to be resilient, get back up on the horse, and keep going. So that was the first thing that really sort of inspired me. Then also, in 2011, I was talking on Twitter to this girl, and she was saying to me, who has the best cupcakes in New York? And I said, well, I'm a nerd, and the Blind Food Critics, I got back to her right away. I ended up marrying her last year, and that was incredible for me. She's really taught me a lot about life. I don't know how to say it even. It's been so inspiring and incredible. Just life, love, a whole different perspective. Yeah, it's been beyond anything I could have imagined.
Daniel Hawkins.
One of the biggest things I really, really miss about losing my vision is being able to drive. That's one thing I really love to do, no matter what. I can drive anything. We call this cars, tractors, a wheelbarrow, a bike. And when I lost my vision, I just had a sudden urge to drive anything, regardless if I would crash or not. And so one day, my wife's uncle, he's a truck driver. So he came over for vision one day. And as a jokester, I started teasing him, hey, let me drive your truck. I thought, there's no way he could let anybody, let alone a blind guy, drive his tractor trailer. Well, before I knew it, I was actually doing a full loop in a Walmart parking lot with cars driving by. And, he was telling me, okay, turn left, turn right, slow down, let the car pass, okay, take off. And I managed to shift into second gear, too. And it's complete with a full trailer, a full load and everything. And I just think it was phenomenal.
Don C.
A particular high in my life is when I graduated from college, because I worked and scraped and scrabbled for every single inch. And of course, back when I went to college, accessibility wasn't quite as extensive as it is today. Mm-hmm. So I literally had to beg, borrow, bribe every friend, every associate, every fellow classmate I had in order to help me go through mountains of history books, and then help me with the whole editing procedure, make sure it was in a format that was not only accessible but visually attractive, and submit it with a smile.
Derek Cleveland.
My down is losing the rest of my vision. It knocked me on my butt for a couple months. I gave myself that couple of months to try to make myself grieve over losing the vision, and my up is my kids. That's my up. I got to get out there and show them they can do anything. If they can get out there and do it, they can do it. They get out there and do it themselves too.
Don Shaw.
I think an up would be my time when I worked at Angelina College that I was telling you about, and the little student accessibility lab there was, I'm sure, a high point. That was a good job. I really liked it a lot. They gave me a lot of freedom there to do kind of what I needed to do and help some folks along the way. I'm sure the series of shows and podcasts that we did, I know, helped a lot of people. And I'm pretty much an optimistic person. I've always been an optimistic person. So I haven't really had a whole lot of really bad downtime.
Donna Jotin.
I think the down in my life came during this whole landmark journey when, there were nights when I would go to bed thinking, why am I doing this? When I'm personally being attacked, professionally being attacked, I'm all alone out here. But then I would say, but there are others standing behind me. And I would say, but I need them beside me, not behind me. And those were the down times when you sort of doubt yourself for a certain, at certain times, with saying, is this going to succeed? And if it doesn't, then what? That is the big part of it all.
Eva Bagara.
Graduating from college. Because that was a challenge. It took me a while. I went to Texas Southern University, and oh my goodness, it took me about 6 years, I guess. But I did it. I had challenges along the way with trying to get books in accessible formats, and teachers that didn't want to listen, they were hard-headed, so we had to go back and forth, and I even had to go to Disability Rights Texas a few times and, advocate for myself again and get things done. But overall, it was all, I finished. And now I'm working on a master's in humanities, and I'll be finished in December. Woo!
Leo Desnet.
I guess my downer was at a time in high school when all my buddies were getting driver's licenses and cars and so forth. I couldn't get it. I was condemned to public transportation, or somebody with a generous heart to give me a drive.
Right.
So, I think that was one of the negatives. And that you get over, but that was a biggie. That really was a biggie.
Paul Ferrara.
For me, one of the greatest moments was undergraduate college graduation. I'm there. My first dog, Emily, and I, we made it through the 4 years of undergraduate work. I'm standing up there and I'm surrounded by fraternity brothers. I'm standing around some of my best lifelong friends that I still have from college. They call my name and everybody stands up and gives me a standing ovation. Now, I'm the only blind student at the school. And to me, that's exhilarating. I love that. It's a feeling of accomplishment. I made it. I was equal to the task at hand. It doesn't diminish anybody else's work. It's hard for anybody to graduate from college. But, we're talking about the days when you didn't have open book software. You didn't have scanners. You had cassettes from RFB. Mm-hmm. You had human readers. And it was a completely different world. And that was a huge high. So you would never think that the low I'm going to mention would come, but I decided after that to move somewhere. It ended up being a small town, not a whole lot of work in that area. And this was what I chose. So ironically enough, I ended up talking to somebody who ran a sheltered workshop. And they said, we want to hire you on as a case manager. Then they called a few weeks later and said, look, I'm sorry, we don't have the money to do it. Well, finances being what they are, you have to do what you have to do sometimes. So I didn't want to, but I decided, I'm going to go work in this place for the time being. And if you know about a place like this, the pay is not good. You're lucky if you get minimum wage, especially at that time. After the training, they pay by the piece. Okay, so 1 week I work 30 hours, and would you want to take a guess as to what my paycheck was that week? Anybody out there listening, would you want to take a guess as to what I got paid that week? Time's up. My check for that 30-hour week, $36 and change. When you recover, you pick yourself up off the floor from that, you say, all right, I'm going to have to do some things, make some changes, and I did. And it takes time to fix all this stuff. But diving more into technology, finding a way to get a hold of some things and learning some new skills that you didn't have. And eventually, as time goes on, things do get better. You get better jobs and you learn more things. And, here I'm talking to you now, and I'm working 2 jobs and it's a much better situation. But I'm telling you, we've got choices that we have to make, and we have to do our best to make the best choices we can, because there's so much out there that we can't control. We need to do the best job we can of controlling the things that we can and doing as well as we're able to do.
Roxana Cleveland.
It started off as a down. When I went to college, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I decided on English, and I graduated with English, but I did not get into grad school, which was a downer for me. And I went a while without having a job, looking for a job and stuff. And I did eventually get a job that I did not like, but that company didn't stay in business for very long. So again, I did not have a job for a while, and then I got another job, which my up was, it did get me some experience that I needed, and I was able to learn a lot from that job.
Ryan Cork.
The whole episode that I've been going through since August of 2012, which has been my current job. I actually got hired at Horizons for the Blind in Crystal Lake, Illinois, which I was hired for what I thought was going to be a magnificent audio production contract. Rick Wolf, he's a sports author, and he wanted us to digitize 10 of his books, make them available in MP3 audio format. We were going to get $25,000 out of that project. He's been on WGN radio selling his audio edition of Ron Santo Perfect 10, various sports memorabilia books that he writes, and we were going to get the contract I was ecstatic, and I came to work for them. I was like, man, this is great. And January of 2013 rolled around, and we got it done, but we were working on consumer grade equipment in the studio, so a lot of this noise and stuff had to be filtered out, and SoundForge was helping us with it, and it wasn't quite good to where I could say, let's put this on CD. And so I kept batch processing and noise reducing and all that stuff. And we got the order done eventually, but we never got paid for it. We got 82 hours worth of recording time. And Rich all of a sudden got sick and had been in the hospital for quite some time, and we never received a dime.
Shelley Smith.
I guess a down would be when I first went off to public school. I really missed, being around my blind friends, because I was the only one that was blind there at the time. And I got through it with the help of some really good friends who I made, and just kept my close friends close, and that's pretty much what I did.
Thanks for joining us for Blink. Visit FedoraOutlier.com/Blink to weigh in with your votes and participate in crowdfunding. We'll see you right here next week. Blink, where employment becomes reality.